Good morning and welcome to the Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios. Here are a few things that tell the truth: small children, drunks, and yoga pants. Now here's your host, Dave Kearney.
You know, Chad, yoga pants may tell the truth about us as men, because I don't know any man really that doesn't like yoga pants as a style option and also something that's really infiltrated our lives. I know I don't wear yoga pants because I can't. It just doesn't look good on me. But where are you with yoga pants, really? I mean, are you a fan or a super fan? Because it seems like people land in those two groups.
For myself, I'm not a fan. For a fine young lady, I am definitely a fan.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, baby.
Okay,
I can't wear those things either. I don't want to see it. I've got no ass, so it doesn't look good for me. It's like, oh, you look like you're, I don't know, Sergey Ingve or somebody who is going to be like, you know, a dancer in Europe in 1912 with no ass. All right. Well, yoga pants. They also made big a couple of folks that had that LuLaRoe company. You remember LuLaRoe, that our buddy Ray Bryant and his wife made like a ton of money on when they were first coming out. Did you ever see that documentary about the LuLaRoe pants and the LuLaRoe? Oh God, Chad, fascinating. Infinitely fascinating.
Yeah, the day that I sit down to watch a documentary about pants is the day that someone needs to shoot me.
I'm sorry, you are just missing out then. You do not know what you're missing when you watch a documentary about LuLaRoe pants. It's fucking fascinating. It really is. And good morning, Joey. I'm sure you've watched the LuLaRoe documentary. So is LeBron going to break the record tonight or wait until the game on Thursday versus the Bucks? It's interesting, Joey. If you go to your Twitter feed or go to our Twitter feed, I think I tagged you on this morning, as a matter of fact, though, Joey, at the Sports Carney for us. That's the poll question, Chad. When will LeBron break Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's all-time scoring record, which is held for, 38 years in the NBA? When will he do that? Tonight versus the Thunder or Thursday versus the Milwaukee Bucks? Take our poll question on our Twitter feed at the Sports Carney, our Facebook group page as well. What do you think? Tonight versus OKC, Thursday versus the Bucks.
Where are we at?
We're at 36 points.
36.
36 points.
I think he does it tonight. I think he wants to get it over with, don't you?
I do.
I mean, he can drop 38, no problem. That's like it's not like we're talking about a guy that is past his prime. He can't hoist up those numbers on a regular basis.
He's averaging 30 points now.
30 points. It's only eight points above his average. Unless he has his druthers to want to do it against a better team and wait for the Bucks, but I don't know if that's something he even thinks about. It probably is just how the game's going to come to him, but I'm going to say he's going to do it tonight. What the hell?
So I've got two schools of thought on this, and one of them says he breaks it tonight versus OKC, because OKC is a team that's on the rise. Of course, they've got some good players, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Josh Primo, to be sure. These guys are good players, but this is not a team like the Milwaukee Bucks, who after last night's performance against Portland in Portland, where they won their 8th straight game and did so kind of going away. By the way, Brook Lopez looked awesome last night. Janus always looks good. Brook Lopez looked awesome, Chad. I think that LeBron would rather break it versus the Thunder. However, if we're going to be script writers about this whole thing, right? if we're playing the narrative game, then LeBron waits to do it on Thursday night, the bigger TNT spot in the place, because Kareem's going to be in attendance at tonight's OKC game and tomorrow or Thursday's game in Milwaukee. So if he does it Thursday versus the Bucks, he gets to do it with Kareem in the house, in the place where Kareem started his career.
I didn't know that. Now okay, I may have to change my answer. I didn't know that was happening. So I am going to change my, it is script. Yes, that's what's going to happen. It'll be against the Bucks. I did not know that.
I'm just going out on a limb and saying, Chad, you've been all over the script writing, the narrative writing, the controlled mechanisms behind sports. And in this case, I think that that's the way that it may work out. I think it may.
I have to bring this up. So I was talking to a guy at work yesterday. We're talking about the big game. And he goes, you know what? He goes, and he's a truck driver. So he was at one of the places he delivers. And another guy, there was a forklift driver that he talks to about football, goes, you know what, man? He goes, I don't know about you, but he goes, I think the whole NFL is rigged. I think it's scripted. Just out of nowhere. And he told me this yesterday. And I was like, huh. Yeah, that's interesting. I've never thought of that, I said. That's very interesting.
You've never, that's something that's never popped up for you, huh?
No.
Tell me more why you feel this way, young man. Please share. Yeah,
We were
well,
talking about the final, the score that somebody mentioned yesterday that's out there that I think it was
37-34, Philly, Joey Miller.
Yes, that's interesting. So I did see that screenshot, and then I did see the Madden simulation, which, if I remember correctly, is in the 80 or 90 percentile in actually being able to predict this Super Bowl. And I think it was 31-17 is the final in that.
Philadelphia wins.
Yeah, Philadelphia wins. So both of these things are saying Philadelphia wins. So that either A means that's going to be the script, or B, think the opposite and go with Kansas City.
Well, listen, there's a lot to chew on here, because this Super Bowl, as I talked about yesterday, is the most, at least statistically, evenly matched Super Bowl that we've ever had. The two teams come in with the exact same record, playoffs and regular season, have scored the exact same amount of points, have the exact same amount of all-pro players. They both have 6 all-pro players.
Huh.
This is going to be one of those classic matchups, I believe. But I'll tell you, on Thursday, I'll make my prediction officially with John Papadopoulos, ESPN 105.5. The more that I weigh these metrics and I'm looking at different just ways in which the Eagles can attack Kansas City, what Kansas City would have to do to sort of counterbalance that Philadelphia Eagles front, who gets more sacks with a 4-man rush than any team in the league. And it's not even close. I don't know that Kansas City can do it. I really don't, because the only weak spot that I can see on this Philadelphia team is the run defense. And Kansas City does not like to run the football. It's not that they refuse to run the football,
right?
But they pass the football 66% of the time. I don't know if they're going to be able to run the football effectively enough to keep those guys away from Patrick Mahomes. And if we think about that Super Bowl where they lost to the Bucs, I mean, they got fucking annihilated. What was the final score of that one, guys? 31-9. I believe the Buccaneers beat them 31-9 because they harassed Patrick Mahomes all night. They got that pass rush to him. And that's really the only way that you can stop that guy. He's just so amazing. It's going to be a wild one. So we'll see. I like where you're going. The script writing, it may work in the NFL. It maybe, just maybe, has something to do with the NBA, seeing as how they have awarded MVPs in perhaps places which they didn't need to go. So if that is the case, Kareem, Thursday night in Milwaukee, imagine the hoopla. His jersey's retired up there in the rafters.
No, that's perfect. Makes perfect sense.
Whew. Who wants to break it on Tuesday versus the Thunder?
Yeah, I mean, who cares?
Tuesday versus the Thunder. All right, boys and girls, stay tuned. Matt Janus is coming up with us at 8:30. UWL football coach who has been named Coach of the Year in the WIAC. Chad, we talked about that a couple of weeks ago, but now another big award for one of his assistants. We'll talk to Matt about that coming up at 8:30. And again, when does LeBron break Kareem's all-time scoring record? Stay tuned. What can I say? The Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi Street is not only my favorite bar in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin, it's my favorite restaurant in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin. Breakfast served 8 to noon, Saturday and Sundays, daily specials, incredible cocktails, and the best damn wait staff in the entire city. My buddy Matt knows how to treat you right, and that's why when you go to the Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi, you're always going to have a great time and a great meal with a great cocktail. So if you haven't been in a while, or perhaps you're just regular and you want to stop in again, make it a thing. I'm there every single week. How about you?
Coming to Fox this fall, it's the Bench Brothers.
Talking about that street clothes and Westbrook.
They're getting down on the bench. The Bench Brothers, brought to you by Big Dick's Hoagie Heaven. Remember, ladies, the first 6 inches is free. And by Don Francisco's. At Don Francisco's, if you're up all night, so are we.
Street clothes and Westbrook.
They're getting down on the bench.
Broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios. This is the Sports Carnival. I don't always tolerate stupid people, but when I do, I'm probably at work. And here's your host, Dave Carney.
I love this. I love this. Chad, I just think about all the wonderful times that we have had talking about weird shit on various different platforms. We're talking sports this morning, of course, and if you want to chime in with us, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch are the places to do so, even though I've had a couple of reports, and I can't figure out why, because I've got no issues with it from my browser or my phone. I've heard a couple of reports we're having issues with Twitch and people being able to get a hold of us on Twitch. If that is the case, just subscribe to our YouTube channel or watch us on our Facebook group page. Or if you've got some access to Facebook, you'll find us live on that particular platform as well. It's all at the Sports Carney. So if you're having issues with Twitch, apologies. I can't figure out what it is. Chad, last night, bingo at the Recovery Room was really awesome. We actually saw Matty Ice. He came over and did his best to win some prizes. Maddie did not come up with a prize last night, but we did get a whole bunch of new Bucks swag from our friends at Jameson Irish Whiskey. Gave away a couple of Bucks beanie caps, some Bucks t-shirts. Really fun time. And we're starting to build a little bit of a crowd here on Monday nights. So we're spreading the word. You want to have fun Mondays, come on down, see me. It's going to be me now 100% of the time because it's just better when I'm doing it. For bingo on Monday, 7 to like 9-ish, a lot of fun there. I'll be back at the recovery room today at 11, and we'll be getting some lunch going. So come on over, see us for lunch, and have some fun. Thanks again to Maddie for coming out last night, and really to everybody that stops out there at the recovery room. Of course, they are the power behind the Trauma Center studios, and we appreciate them. Chad, I'm looking at our Facebook group page, and we've got a couple of different stories and kind of going around. Our audience members are putting things up, and I know we've got LeBron James and, Janus Antetokounmpo and the Bucks winning last night versus the Blazers we could talk about, but I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. Urban Meyer, because we didn't talk Urban Meyer together on air. Urban Meyer says the Jags are better because they've got better players. Nothing to do with his coaching, mismanagement of an entire franchise and organization. Bringing fucking Tim Tebow in.
Okay.
Bringing Tim Tebow in to start possibly his career as a tight end after being out of football for a decade. I want to ask you about that. And then there's something else on here I'd like to get your thoughts on. But let me start with Urban Meyer. Where were you on the whole Urban Meyer getting hired as an NFL coach? And how did you think that worked out for the Jags?
Well, initially I thought, okay, let's give this guy a shot, right? Okay. He's a great college coach. There's college coaches that do turn into great NFL coaches. The ones that come to mind are Pete Carroll and Jimmy Johnson.
Those are the two.
Barry Switzer kind of gets a pass, I guess, maybe. But, give him a shot, see what happens. And it obviously didn't work out. So for him to say, he's actually saying this, I have not seen this.
Yeah, no,
he's saying that it's not
a lot of better players.
Okay, yeah. Oh, let's go with that. Whatever makes your ego feel better, I guess, Urban Meyer. I think that's completely and patently false, and he knows it. This is just one of those. It's part of the spin that people on media do now, and somebody's, hopefully somebody's out there calling him out on it. That's on a platform that that's larger than ours. That's calling him out on this because that's bullshit.
Yeah,
that's complete bullshit, in my opinion.
I agree. Listen, Urban Meyer was a just patent disaster in the NFL, and the way that he I don't know if you watched or really followed along at that time, the way that he mismanaged that team, what he did kicking a kicker, like actually putting not hands, but feet on a kicker, not going back on a team flight after a loss to the Bengals as he goes back to Columbus, Ohio, doing all of these things. You had to ask yourself, under what auspices did he actually get offered a head coaching job in the NFL? That was one thing. And I know that he was a great college coach, but you mentioned the two examples in which college coaches have been good in the NFL, Pete Carroll and Jimmy Johnson. Barry Switzer, maybe a pass, but he had Jimmy Johnson's team, for Christ's sake.
Well, he still won a Super Bowl. I'm throwing it out there.
Okay, that's fair. And I guess you're right. We can't take that away from Barry. We cannot take that away.
Jim Harbaugh didn't do very well in the NFL. Let's be honest.
Actually, you know what? That's not true. He went to a Super Bowl and how many NFC championship games?
Not as good as we would anticipate. Yeah, okay, you're right. All right, well, okay, so we'll throw Jim Harbaugh in there too if we got to throw Barry Switzer. But the bottom line, it's a finite amount, right? Most college coaches that were great college coaches don't necessarily translate, able to go and take it to the NFL. And Urban Meyer is just one of those guys, clearly.
Okay, so that's one of those things that I hope with Urban Meyer's particular case here that we're talking about never actually comes back up. Like, I hope Urban Meyer never gets an opportunity to coach in the NFL again. I thought he did such a bad job. A lot of these guys get, other shots, but Urban Meyer's going to go back to TV, I think, and try to resume that career. Now, the second thing I want to ask you about is this.
Which I don't think he does a very good job on TV, by the way.
I don't think so either. I thought he had no personality.
Very boring. Yeah.
Indeed. I did not like his insight. Like Drew Brees. Okay. Drew Brees got a shot with NBC. He was not good. He was not good at all. And they started
even with his hair plugs.
Even with his hair plugs. I mean, imagine what I could do with hair plugs and shoe lifts. I mean, think about that. Hair plugs and shoe lifts for me. I mean, talk about conquering unknown parts of the universe.
I love now Drew Brees on Mondays losing his hair, and on Tuesdays got a full head of hair, and we're not supposed to say anything. We're like, oh, yeah, that looks normal. Good job, buddy. You do
No,
something different with your hair?
yeah. Wait. Oh, is that Brian Urlacher all of a sudden? Like, oh, shocking right there. By the way, Brian Urlacher's lost all respect from the bald community. The bald community, which
Yeah.
I take my hat off to.
Yeah.
The
You
bald
embrace these
community.
people.
Yeah, you have to, because it's not like a super select group, but it is still something that you have to really want to go all into, right? You have to
Own it.
dive right in to the bald
Yeah.
thing, and you have to own it. He
Mhm.
didn't, so he's lost a lot of respect for that. But Drew Brees just wasn't good. So the next thing I'm curious about is this: Tom Brady. So he's done in the NFL. He's retired, and we know that now. He was on Colin Cowherd's show the other day and mentioned that he's going to take off this upcoming season, right? So this upcoming season for the NFL, he's going to take off, which means he won't start his, and I can't believe I'm even saying this, 10-year, $375 million contract with the Fox Broadcast Network until the 2024 season. I honestly cannot believe that it's a 10-year, $375 million contract. So my question to you is this: do you think he's actually going to be good? Because I'm not so sure. I'm really not. I've seen him on these commercials a couple of times. I'm just not so sure he's going to be that good. What do you think?
I think he's going to be good enough. And because of who he is, he doesn't have to be great. You know what I mean? Some guys have to be like Dan Orlovsky. You've got to be great because you're Dan Orlovsky. Okay. I mean, no offense.
That's true.
Obviously, he has more credibility than we do when it comes to football because he played in the NFL. But when you say the name, it's not like, oh, God, look, Dan Orlovsky's talking.
He's a guy that ran out of the end zone.
Right. He's actually earned it. I mean, he's actually good. Dan Orlovsky's actually a good analyst.
He really is.
Great job.
I agree.
My point being is that he didn't really have the cachet because of his name and who he was to just walk into a booth and everybody just, stumble all over him. I think Tom Brady's going to get a little bit of a pass. But with that said, you still have to have some chops and still have to be able to, do the job. I think he's going to do an adequate job. I think he'll do a better job than Drew Brees or Joe Montana. Joe Montana was another guy who obviously I was pulling for. I was a big Joe Montana fan. Not good on television. He's just not. He's decent in these commercials when he has these little snippets and stuff, and they kind of can make fun of him and whatever. And he's doing Guinness, drinking Guinness beer, then that's fine. But if he's got to sit there and analyze something, it doesn't really work out that well. So I would say Tom Brady's going to do, initially, I think he'll do fair. But with that guy's kind of mentality and work ethic, he'll probably work himself into being great. Who knows?
Well, and that's one thing that I give Brady a lot of credit for saying on the Colin Cowherd show was that he wants to take off this season in between football, obviously to sort of decompress and get himself back to, I would imagine, a neutral sort of an RPM, if you will, right? Because you're doing the same thing for 23 consecutive years. He's played professional football longer than he hasn't played professional football, right? It's like when some of these guys retire after, long careers, Kevin Garnett, I don't know that they still, it might take them 4 or 5 years to reset how they go about their day-to-day because they've been playing professional sports longer than they'd not played professional sports. So I do give him credit for that. But he also mentioned, Brady, that he wants to take the upcoming season to work on that craft. He's like, look, I need to get better. I want to be in the shop. I want to get better. And I'm paraphrasing to a degree, but I agree. He is going to put in the work. I just don't know if it's suited for everybody. It almost reminds me of the conversations we've had about great players going to be coaches, because Matty Ice is bringing up Greg Olson. Give me Greg Olson any day. Greg Olson started doing games in bye weeks during his career. Like at the end of Greg Olson's career, he was guesting on some of these games and not like, again, doing the full entire broadcast, but he was guesting on some of these games and he was actually able to get better. And Greg Olson's got incredible chops. I really do enjoy him. But I think if Brady puts in the work, he'll be good. I just don't know if he'll be what people are expecting. And then going back to how I started this, a 10-year, $375 million contract. Yeah. I mean, that's probably more. I don't know for sure. And maybe somebody could check in on this. That's probably more than he made in his NFL career, because I'm not sure where his actual earnings are. Like the way that these structured contracts worked in, especially early in his career, the numbers weren't anywhere close to what we are getting nowadays for quarterbacks, right?
Right.
I wonder if his career earnings in the NFL aren't at least comparable with that, which would be staggering to think about, coming off of a career and getting a 10-year boat for 375 million racks. I mean, it's really unbelievable. I mean, impressive as shit. Good for him.
So correct me, and forgive my ignorance on this. Is he going to be a color analyst or is he going to be a studio asset? Is he going to be like part of the?
He's going to be the game broadcaster. He's going to
He
be
is
like a Tony
color
Romo.
analyst.
Yes, he's
Okay.
going to be a color analyst, which
Okay.
again, I was a little surprised about as well. I thought he would be a studio guy, right? You put him in a studio setup, you have him in one of those roles. That to me was the way that it would have. If it were me, that's probably what I would do. Okay, that's probably what I would have done, because that way you can stay home with the family more, right? You don't have to travel and go to these cities, for basically a week, maybe 3 days. It's not quite a whole week, but when these studio guys travel, they got to be gone for multiple days each and every
Well,
week. It's sort of like playing, to a lesser degree, but it's sort of like playing an NFL role.
obviously, generally speaking, that's why most color analysts, if you really analyze it, are analysts are quarterbacks, because they know they can see the whole field, right? They know how to read a defense, an offense. They understand what's going on, can make quick decisions and be able to talk about it. From that point of view, I think he has all of the knowledge. Clearly, he's probably one of the smartest NFL players we've ever seen.
For
But
sure.
can he convey that in a way that's accessible or acceptable to the audience? Can he kind of humble himself a little bit and have a little bit of humor? I think Tony Romo does a great job. I think Troy Aikman does a great job. Moose Johnson, I think it seems like everybody from Dallas does, for whatever reason, is gifted at this. There are a few guys that annoy the shit out of me though too. I think Chris Collinsworth is good, but he annoys me. And that's just my own personal opinion, but I think he does a good job.
That's fair.
But that's not the color analyst job is probably one of the hardest jobs in broadcasting, because of being able to not only be able to read and anticipate, be able to get your point in a small little window too, because you also have to be able to give back to your main host, right? To the guy that's actually calling the game. And then occasionally you got interruptions by refs and stuff. So it can be a little bit tricky. And I think he's going to, and I think whoever posted that on Facebook, Tom will be at home, his home studio, perfecting the craft. I would imagine he's the type of guy that's going to do that. He's going to run tape on himself, be watching a game, and be calling it at the same time. Because why wouldn't you? I know I would do that.
Well, it's interesting because that's what Colin Cowherd used to do with a lot less technology back in the day. We had a friend of ours that worked at CBS, Mark, that was a roommate of Cowherd's when they both lived in Vegas. And from what I heard, and this is something Mark told me, I have no reason to disbelieve this, Cowherd would sit there, watch those games, tape himself with a tape recorder at the time,
Yep.
right? Play it over, play it over, play it over, play it over, because that's what he thought he was going to do initially, again, according to reports. And I think he spoke on his own particular platform about that. Jimmy Namath checking in, saying $333 million, by the way, is Brady's total after this season. So thank you, because I was curious about that. He'll make more in his initial thrust with Fox, or at least, over the span of that contract, ostensibly, than he made in his NFL career. That's fucking crazy. I mean, that really is.
Well, especially when you're talking about the GOAT, right? So the greatest player, greatest quarterback of all times, at least, is going to actually make more money in a shorter period of time off the air than he is on the field.
Yeah.
That's remarkable to think about, but it also shows you, hard work pays off as well, right? So he's put these 23 years in, worked his ass off, accomplished all the things that he's done. Obviously, he doesn't need the money. That's clear, but it is something to, I guess, that gives him a little bit of braggadocio, right? He's able to be the highest paid former NFL player of all times. I would imagine that put him in that category.
Oh shit! If
broadcasting goes,
listen, if you think about the way that quarterback contracts are scaled up now, right? So if Deshaun Watson gets whatever he gets, that $250 million from Cleveland, now you've got Lamar Jackson wanting $250 million from Baltimore.
Yeah.
Well, if Tony Romo gets $20 million a year, and Tony Romo, let's face it, it really isn't in the same conversation with a quarterback like Tom Brady. If he's getting $20 million a year, you have to imagine that Brady's people were like, we're at least twice as good as Tony Romo is in football. So we have to put forth almost twice as much money there to do this job. You would have.
I know you kind of make jokes about Tony Romo, but I think part of the reason why Tony Romo is getting paid the way he's getting paid is he does have that, affability. He's a very likable guy. So he's got a smile on his face. He seems to be very positive, and he has a knack for calling plays before they happen. And it happens exactly like he calls them. He's done that a number of different times. And I think that he's gotten a lot of credit for that, at least on social media.
Sure.
You see a lot of people commenting about that. It's like Tony knows the plays before even the players know the plays. And so you got to give credit where credit's due. But don't you find that fascinating? Think about all of the Cowboys. Go back to Dandy Don Meredith, who was in the Monday Night Football crew. You got Troy Aikman, you've got Moose Johnson, you've got Tony Romo. It's like every former Cowboy seems to have a knack for this. It's pretty remarkable.
Well, and this is something that comes with being a Cowboy quarterback, right? It's not even that. So for Dak Prescott, the same thing will apply. It's not even that you have to be the great Dallas Cowboy quarterback. You don't need to be Troy Aikman or Roger Staubach. You just need to be a Dallas Cowboys quarterback, and you've got an opportunity for a career well after football. There is something about that, about playing for a team like the Cowboys. If you're in Major League Baseball, playing for the Yankees or the Dodgers or the Red Sox, if you're in the NBA and you're a Laker or you're a Knick or something like that, there are things that come, generationally, things that come with that. I like what Joe V was talking about. Real quick, I'm going to go back to his take. He said Brady's a weirdo. We'll see if he's relatable or at least good weird and not awkward. That is the difference, though, because Tony does come off, as you've mentioned, as sort of like an everyman.
Yeah.
Even though there are reports that he is suffering some slippage in the booth and that CBS is a little concerned about it. Apparently, they've been trying to give him a bit of a life raft here recently. So I've noticed that as well. Yeah, I read a story about that just the other day. But back to Brady, there is something about the lack of relatability with the guy that's so accomplished. And this is, again, just going back to the take about sometimes great players don't make great coaches because, again, they're so great that they expect things from players that perhaps they're not capable of doing, as opposed to somebody who was a very good, but let's say overall average type player, or at least not superstar player. Jacques Vaughn, for example, is doing a great job with the Nets. Steve Nash is a Hall of Fame player, and I don't think that guy could fucking coach, right? So it doesn't always translate like that, but we'll see. Tom Brady, if anything, is a workaholic, and I think that Tom will, as one of our Facebook users said, be putting in the work. I don't doubt that, and I know that he's also got some time on his hands being divorced, because Giselle, by the way, yeah, she's getting back into the modeling game, and that woman looks fantastic. I mean, fantastic. Good for her.
The other thing I would say about Tom Brady is that he has made concessions, and he is one of those kinds of guys that is willing to sacrifice for his teammates, as we've seen in his past, restructuring contracts. So he's a little bit different mold than most alpha male quarterbacks, right? Most of these guys are kind of egotistical. Every quarterback I've ever known is an asshole, to be honest with you. Not that I've known a lot, but most of them they're kind of assholes. They're arrogant or whatever. He doesn't seem to come across that way to me. He is very unique. Some people might call him a weirdo, but he is very unique from that perspective. So it'll be interesting to see if that translates on the air. And that's a whole different thing, because it's funny. Like, people are a certain way, then you put a camera on them. Like, Steve Young strikes me as that kind of guy. I think he's a completely different person off the air than he is on the air. I have no way to tell that because I never met the guy. But he seems to kind of stiffen up a little bit and acts a little bit different when he's on the air than I bet he is off the air.
Sure. And I think that that's a pretty normal sort of reaction. And I don't know how Brady's going to do. I assume that his pretty face is going to carry him, right? And I'm assuming that his name is going to carry him somewhat. But if he's not good, we're going to find out. I mean, that's one of those things that you can't really hide from. You're right out there in the front and center of just about everything. So we'll see. I mean, Drew Brees, again, great football player, just a terrible analyst. Brett Favre got like 8 auditions to be on television. The guy just couldn't fucking remember anything. I mean, he's just, the only thing he can remember is where he put the welfare money to siphon to his I mean, like that he remembers.
Where he hung his Wrangler jeans last. He remembers that.
Indeed. And by the way, him and Jerry Rice playing pickup football against scrubs at the park. I'm just going to tell you, that's not fair. You can't have both of those guys on the same team. I don't care what Copperfit is selling you. All right, when we come back, thanks to our friends at the Recovery Room, Preferred Insurance, BetUS, and Kyle Cable at One Trust Real Estate. We're going to talk to the Wyatt Coach of the Year, Matt Janus. We got to sprinkle some kudos on 6 players from the Eagles team who have been named to the D3.com All-Region team, and also Coach McGuire with the big award. Stay tuned. We'll talk some Eagles football coming up next year on the Sports Carnival.
Preferred Insurance is the official auto, home, business, flood, and life insurance agency of the Sports Carnival, serving folks in La Crosse and surrounding areas with licenses in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa. As an independent insurance agency, Preferred Insurance is free to find the very best insurance for you, your family, or your business needs. Call my friends at Preferred Insurance today and set up a free consultation. Remember, working with an independent agency means Preferred Insurance works for for you, with you, to find the best solutions at the best prices.
Back to the Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios. To avoid arguments about the toilet seat, just use the sink instead. Simple solution. Now here's your host, Dave Carney.
So I don't know if I'm going there with you yet, but that sounds like a George Costanza take. It's all drains. Everything.
There are pipes.
All
There's
drains. Okay. And man, I had a little different thing that I was going to go on to here, but because we've got our good buddy Matt Janus coming up from the University of Wisconsin La Crosse, I'll save breaks. Yeah, I'll save this for perhaps a little bit later on in this morning's program. Coach Janus, welcome back to the program. Always fun having you on a Tuesday. I know that a couple of weeks ago, I sort of mentioned the Wyatt Coach of the Year, and perhaps we were even a little bit soon because Coach Schmidt talked about it with us here on the program. But, you know, you guys at the university and your social media feeds are really starting to push out, you know, a lot of these different awards and accolades that yourself and your players and even Coach McGuire have been recently honored with. Let me start with this. As the UWL head football coach, how proud are you of your offensive coordinator and assistant coach of the year now, Coach McGuire, for putting together what was such a devastatingly good offense, second in scoring offense, first in third down conversions, first in rushing offense, first in passing efficiency, and first in sacks allowed? How proud as a head coach are you of this guy, because he did just such a fantastic job this year?
Oh man, Dave, freaking proud, man. I mean, I am. It's well deserving. You know, I thought he's been the best play caller in our league now over the last 2 seasons. So to see him get rewarded and honored, you know, is so well deserved. And you know, Coach McGuire and I, it kind of goes back a long time. It's we actually, you know, back in 2018, I had to call plays, and in 2019. We played Dickinson State, so I had to call plays against him for 2 years, and obviously didn't have a ton of success with it. So I knew what we had in a play call, and then I got a chance to kind of take this job at UW La Crosse, become the head coach here, and obviously knew that the biggest piece of me going forward and if we were going to have success relied on me hiring a really good offensive coordinator, hiring somebody that could take control of the room, somebody that was creative, was going to recruit like heck. And it's just kind of weird how it all falls into my lap, you know, with Coach McGuire throughout the whole, you know, as we were going throughout the whole hiring process. You know, I had this guy in mind before I even knew about him or knew about his interest. And then that actually ended up kind of, you know, then I talked to Coach McGuire during that on the phone. And I remember like walking around the track at Mitchell Hall as I was talking to him. I'm like, oh my God, that guy's it. Like we click, we share similar interests, you know, just the way we view on everything, we click, and for whatever reason it fell through. And so we were able to kind of move on to Coach McGuire. And by the time we kind of got around to the interview process and getting him on campus, like COVID hit. And so like the world shut down. And so here I am, you know, as everything's kind of shutting down, trying to hire an offensive coordinator because I knew how important, and I knew I needed that piece moving forward. And we couldn't wait until, you know, the summer or something. So we had to hire this in the middle of COVID. So Coach McGlenn and I were taking Coach McGuire. He never actually came to campus because he couldn't, and it wasn't allowed. So we're taking Coach McGuire around on FaceTime. You know, we're downtown La Crosse, showing, hey, here's downtown on the phone, and showing him how everything is. And you know, he took you know, I know him and his wife and his family took a huge kind of leap of faith without, you know, Coach McGuire was only here for a game day in 2018, and you know, his wife never saw it, and so they took a huge kind of leap of faith. And he's really been by our side here and so loyal to this program. And what I love most about him is he invests. He invests into not just our program, but especially into our players. And take the play calling away, take all the offense statistics away. Our kids love him. They love being around him. They love him in the front of the room. So it's truly a blessing to have him by my side in a huge role, and obviously has been a huge part to our success over the last 2 years.
Well, it's just such an honor, and you guys, you know, at the University of Wisconsin La Crosse do so much, and I think that it's really just it's so reflective to see these honors come back, because this is the kind of product that we feel here in town that you're putting out there. And Chad, I know we've talked about this Eagles team together. It's hard to really kind of get a grasp of what they mean to the city until you're here. But for Matt, and what your staff has accomplished, again, kudos from us. Your second season as a head coach has netted the team an 18-5 record, 2 NCAA playoff appearances, a conference title, and you've been ranked in the top 25 since week 2 of 2021. You're definitely trending in the right direction here, man. I know I've mentioned, that you could eventually be one of the all-time great coaches here at UWL, but it really is a testament to you and your crew, your staff, and the players for putting together such a great product. Now, your players, we're starting to get, and again, we've had these honors and awards out there for a while, but we're starting to get, some of the folks in town really recognizing what a special group of kids this was that came through and were seniors. You and Mike Schmidt sort of recruited together, and what you've got coming up next, I'm sure, is going to be equally as special. But talk to us about at least a couple of the guys, that were members of the D3.com all-region team. We've got a second team, all NCAA player here on your team. I mean, these were some really special talents, Matt.
Yeah, they were, and guys that really, and obviously as you get a new team, there's new faces in the room. So as we're going to kind of going through this offseason, it's getting used to, okay, Joey Stutzman isn't there anymore, and Alex Bongers isn't there. But some of these postseason accolades are like same thing with Coach McGuire, are so well deserved, and goes to a group. I couldn't think of a better group of guys that have really, a lot of these guys stepped into this program, 4 or 5 years ago, believing in what could happen here, because it wasn't. We were just kind of turning the corner, and so these are the guys that took us to that next level, that took us to the playoffs, that took us to a conference championship, because they believed in our staff, and they believed in this football program, and they believed in this university. So, guys like Joey Stutzman, and I know we've talked enough about him and what he's accomplished on the field, and to move on and to go to more seniors and to look at like Alex Bongers. I mean, Alex was whatever it says second team, but the reality is he's probably one of the best defensive linemen in the entire country, and he should be first team. And the level, Alex came in at, probably 230 pounds, and probably 6'2". And probably, to be honest with you, if we saw Alex today, I still don't know if we would recruit him. His trademark is he wears a fanny pack all the time. It's hilarious. But he wears a fanny pack, and that was his trademark. And Alex brought into this program and into this, and to Coach McGlenn and all that teaching point. And, he gets himself to be around 270, 275. And for the last 2 years was an unbelievable. Some of the stuff he did, especially when we played, up levels, and we played Division II schools like Grand Valley State and Wayne State. Some of the stuff that he did just showed how good he was. And then obviously on top of Alex, not only a great player on the field, but was also going through PT grad school this year, was putting in a massive amount of hours. So if you just think about that, like PT school at La Crosse, that's really, really hard to do. And yet a guy that was able to balance it and have success with both. And then, to turn it over and kind of look at some of our other guys that were on that, kind of all region, all American list is a guy that's coming back, and Mike Bertoya, our starting right tackle. And he's been our starting right tackle since 2019. And we got one more swing with one more year with Mike. And, you talk about our offensive line and seeing our whole offensive line. All 5 of our offensive linemen were all conference. So that's pretty special to be able to return, Mike, with that leadership type role now, and the physical level that he plays with. And, the list goes on and on. You talk about Eli Alt, who's made plays time and time again for our secondary, for our defense. It's just really cool to see those guys get the honors that they deserve.
Yeah, Chad, it's always fun when you know that you put in the work and you get some recognition. And I show folks behind me, in the Trauma Center studio, some of the awards and accolades that we've actually been able to garner since we've been out here. And Chad, Coach Janus, is actually the producer of a number of these awarded spots back here. And it's not that you seek those kinds of awards when you're doing the work, because you just want to do the work, but it is nice to be recognized. While we've got you this morning, I want to transition you over to the Super Bowl, because we'll talk to you again next Tuesday, but we got the big game coming up on Sunday. This is the most evenly matched by statistical comparisons Super Bowl that we've ever seen. Okay, these two teams are as evenly matched statistically as we have ever seen. They both scored the same number of points. They both have the same record. You've got the top pass offense and the top pass defense in the league going up against each other. Where are you at with this matchup, and who do you like and why?
Where am I at? I agree with you. There's going to be a ton of good football players, man. I think the Eagles have just done such a good job over the last, year and a half of just building their roster. I mean, there's a ton of talent on that field. And then obviously to switch gears, and we all know what Mahomes can do. And, even with losing Hill, and obviously there's going to be some wide receiver issues, somehow the Chiefs are going to find find a way to get the ball to Travis Kelce. And they are so good at that. It doesn't matter. I know everybody says, well, you just double Kelce and you'll be all right. Well, that's impossible with the different things that they do with them, the way they move them, bunch sets to everything. It's almost impossible to double that guy. So I think we're in for a really good game. I think it all comes down. I think the biggest mismatch is going to be the Chiefs' offensive line versus the Eagles' front four. I do. I think that's where it's all going to kind of come down to, is what can the Chiefs do to neutralize that? Quick throws, getting the ball out fast. Because I think they know that they can't sit in a drop back game. I don't think against them. I don't think the Chiefs' offensive line is good enough. So that's what it all comes down. And if it is what I think it is, and then I think the Eagles are going to win this if they can control them up front.
What are your thoughts on the two coaches, Nick Sirianni and Andy Reid? And they're kind of two different style coaches, but both obviously Andy Reid being more successful, but Nick Sirianni kind of coming on. What are your thoughts of those two?
I mean, with Nick, it's just like, you guys all remember his press conference?
Yes.
It's like, you know what I mean? And like, everybody's just like, who is this clown?
Yes.
Right? Like, how does this guy have an NFL job? Like, that's all I can think about. And like, even like kind of like last season, right? You're just like, who is this guy? And then you watch what he's doing this year, and he's good. He is a good coach, and he is cocky. I feel like he just, and you guys know, I already told you I hate both these teams. So I feel like he fits that city. You know what I mean? And he fits that
Totally.
that fan base completely. He's talking crap all the time to fans, and you see him after touchdowns. He's running his mouth at the other team. You know what I mean? Like, he just fits Philly. So to see him come, and like I said, it just kind of from me to just see that, it's like kind of just shocking. Just like, oh, I thought this guy was a clown. I didn't think he'd ever amount to anything off this press conference. So I think it's kind of cool to see him embrace the city of Philadelphia. He knows it. I think they love him. I know I think he's originally from New York, but kind of that East Coast, but like close enough to Philly where he kind of knows how to embrace those people. So it's kind of cool. You see his like goofy shirts that he wears to practice. He's got those goofy graphic tees or something. So it's kind of cool to see that kind of, it's so different. Like, it's so different. Andy Reid is such a staple. Obviously, going to be one of the best coaches, and I think well deserving. The offense that they run there is phenomenal. So I think it's kind of like, it's almost like new age versus kind of old school in a sense with the coaching staff. So it's going to be an awesome game. I really do. I think it's going to be an awesome game, and still think it's just going to come down to Philly's front four against the Chiefs O-line.
Yeah, I largely agree with your take on that one, Coach Janus, because the Eagles' defensive front, the four players that they have generally rushing the quarterback, are amongst the four most ferocious defensive linemen in the league. And, I was looking at some of the Pro Football Focus grades of the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line, and they do have, their center is the number one graded offensive lineman at that position. They've got some good offensive linemen, better than they had a couple of years ago when they lost to Tampa Bay. However, I believe their right tackle, and I can't remember his name right now, is graded as
Wiley?
the 63rd. Yeah, the 63rd ranked.
Right. Is it Wiley at the right side, or is he at the left side? I can't remember.
Well, whichever one. They've got a
struggled against Cincy.
Yes. And that's going to be an issue here. Philadelphia also just has an ability, it seems, to push pressure on quarterbacks in ways that they're just not quite ready for. And I wasn't sure that was going to be able to hold up against San Francisco. And then you see Brock Purdy go out and boom, there it is. You see what they were able to do, and they destroyed him. Again, thanks so much for all of your contributions to the program. It's great having you on every single Tuesday. Tomorrow we'll be talking to your former coach and now your buddy that just works up there at Northern State, Mike Schmidt. But congratulations, and please pass this on to Coach McGuire and all the players if you see him or talk to him today. From all of us here at the Sports Carnival, we're so proud of you guys, and this was a great season. but we can't wait to get you back on the field for next season. I think we might actually have a sellout every single game. We got close to it this year. I think we might actually have sellouts every single game next year, and largely that's due to you guys on the team. So thanks for everything, Coach. We'll talk to you next Tuesday. Go Eagles.
All right, appreciate it, guys. You guys have a good day. We'll talk later. Go Eagles.
Now more than ever, if you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps an investment property, you need a full-time dedicated real estate agent who is up to date on all the latest trends and analysis and is ready to give you the kind of service that you deserve. That's why the official real estate agent and the official real estate partner of the Sports Carnival is Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate. Whether you're looking to buy or sell your first home, or perhaps you are a seasoned investor, call the official real estate agent partner of the Sports Carnival, Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate.
This is Tailgating Tales with Bert Kowalski.
Episode 22.
There'll be no toilet wine before it's time.
It was late September of '92. The Bengals are in town and managed to take out Packers starting QB, the Magic Man, Dan Majkowski. Inner stage left, and then fresh-faced Brett Favre, who engineers a beautiful fourth-quarter comeback to beat Cincy 24-23. It began a 15-year bromance with the state of Wisconsin and cheeseheads worldwide. Meanwhile, I'm in the Lambeau Field parking lot, where I've enjoyed every home game since I was knee-high to a Milwaukee's best tall boy. This is where the tale takes a twist. Majkowski's out, the pack is in jeopardy, and I'm out of beer. Lucky for me, Lou Three Fingers Nelson, who did a stretch in Joliet, always had a fresh batch of toilet wine brewing in his mini-winnie. I was 6 cups in and barely coherent when Favre threw that TD to Kendrick Taylor for the win. God bless Favre, and God bless Three Fingers Toilet Wine.
And Favre put it right on a line. A perfect pass, a perfect catch by Kendrick Taylor.
Back to the action live from the Trauma Center studios. This is the Sports Carnival. Remember, if you want something you've never had, you must be willing to do something you've never done. Now here's your host, Dave Kearney.
Very interesting turn, my friend. We've been quite introspective today. I like this. Very good stuff. I have just got to say one more time to Coach Matt Janus and all of his staff members over at UWL. Congratulations, guys. You put together such a great season. We're so proud of you. Coming up tomorrow on the program, Mike Schmidt will be joining us from the campus of Northern State. The Wolves are, again, looking forward to another successful season with Mike Schmidt at the helm, and we're really lucky to have these guys part of the program. Also lucky to have our supporters like Preferred Insurance, Tony and Brian, downtown La Crosse. All your insurance needs. Matter of fact, I'm meeting with Tony tomorrow to switch over all of my insurance, my auto, my renter's insurance, a whole bunch of things, because he gets you great rates. They're an independent insurance company, can get all of the different big companies together, find out which rate is going to be best for you. That is Preferred Insurance. Kyle Cable, One Trust Real Estate. Cannot say enough about you, Kyle. You were able to get me a great deal, a great price, I should say, on my house. And this was something that was really difficult. Middle of winter, under circumstances that wouldn't be considered optimal, and you were able to pull this thing off and do so with such a professionalism. I'd recommend you to anybody, and I'll be using you, Kyle, for all of my future real estate needs. Obviously, our good friends at the Recovery Room who power the Trauma Center studios. Can't wait to see you back at the RR today. If you want some lunch, I'll be bartending starting at about 11 o'clock in the morning. What's the plans for lunch? You're going to come to the Recovery Room, Foreman, and I'll go ahead and serve you some lunch because I'm working at 11 today. That's great.
So you serve him lunch, and then it just sits there, and then he goes away and then comes back 2 hours later? Is that how that works?
That is exactly how that works.
So
exactly.
BLT with fries, set it on the counter, 2 hours late, put a napkin over it. 2 hours later, Foreman comes back and eats it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, that's exactly what happened last Thursday. So myself, Ethan, Foreman met for lunch. Foreman orders something. As soon as the food, like literally, is coming out of the kitchen, got to go out to the truck. Got to talk to the wife. 45 minutes to an hour later, he's back.
Yeah. Was he sniffing a lot when he came back, or? Well,
yeah, maybe. That's a hard.
Sorry, guys. Sorry, I had
just hold on a second. Wait. It's almost like you've been there with us at lunch. That's almost like you've been there with us at lunch.
That's what they call the Miami halftime show, right? Yeah. I'll be right back.
That's right. Well,
Facebook
Foreman,
user saying Aaron
out.
Rodgers to the Raiders. I think we've kind of already covered this, but that could happen. It could happen.
It's possible. Listen, here's the thing. This about the Aaron Rodgers situation. This is about as much of a gamble as anybody could make, as any team could make. You've got a 39-year-old quarterback that, say what you will, and we can knock the Packers for whatever reasons that we want, didn't play great this last season. Maybe it was the thumb injury. Okay, fine. I love how that didn't come up until the Packers were starting to really suck dick. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait, my thumb hurts. Ouch. And then as soon as they're winning again, thumb feels better. Thumb feels better. Okay, fine.
Except for against Detroit. That thumb hurt again.
Thumb's like, it's really acting up again. Aaron wasn't playing that good. And the offensive line the Packers had was stellar. Those receivers, not that bad. Don't give me all this shit. We know that the guy is starting to decline, okay? I don't care that he won a recent MVP or two. That's not the point. At a certain point in your career, you hit a wall. And it's not always Tom Brady's wall. I've really gotten to the point of like disgusted with people who think that Tom Brady is the new torchbearer for how long quarterbacks should play and at what level. That's a one of one. That's a one of one. The same thing that we're talking about with LeBron James this morning. Okay, when's LeBron going to pass Kareem? Think about that. LeBron James, a pass-first player, is going to pass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for the most points all time. And right now, I've got 53% of respondents on our Twitter feed at the Sports Carney saying Thursday versus the Bucks, 47% for tonight versus the Thunder. And on our Facebook group page, I should say, we've actually got the Bucks at only at 58%, OKC at about 28%. And there's a few people voting on what Boone's Farm put up here. He'll go out with the season-ending injury and won't do it. Which, listen, I don't hope for those things.
That's not cool.
No, they're one of ones. This isn't like every quarterback gets to play till 45 like Tom Brady and gets to be great. We can't just say Aaron's going to be that. So him to the Raiders is a gamble. If Vegas wants to throw themselves into the ring for that, okay, I can see why they would do that. But what do they give up to get this guy? That's the one thing that I just don't know. If Rodgers has designs to win a Super Bowl, he sits right where he is.
Absolutely.
He used to do that. Path to the NFC and the NFC Championship is a lot easier, especially with San Francisco not knowing what they'll do at quarterback. I mean, that's still a real question mark. Who are they going to run out there with next year? No Tom Brady left.
I don't know.
I mean, if you're Aaron Rodgers, the best place to win is going to be Green Bay. It's the clearest path forward to winning. But it's a gamble. And this is something that I wanted to transition to because I'd mentioned some of our great presenting partners here on the program. BetUS, another one of our great presenting partners. Go to betus.com. You'll see it along the bottom of your screen. Enter promo code Carnival, get 125% free play money. Chad, the American Gaming Association came out with a report just yesterday, last evening, that says a record 50.4 million adults in the U.S., roughly 20% of our population, are expected to bet on this year's upcoming Super Bowl for a combined total of, get this, $16 billion. Now, as staggering as that is, listen to the growth of sports betting. And this is one of the reasons why, if you notice that we talk some sports betting on this show and may even talk more sports betting in the near future, the number of people expected to bet on this year's game is up 61% from last year and is now equivalent to how many adults in the U.S. participate in this thing called running or jogging with a soft J.
Soft J.
I mean, dude, sports betting is consuming all of the sports narrative in the sports world. Think about that, up 61% from just last year. And we're talking 20% of the country is expected to bet on this game. That is fucking staggering.
Well, I'll tell you what, one of the reasons why I love the Super Bowl is because of all the prop bets, which really anymore now you can pretty much do that on all games because you got the in-game betting and all the different things you can do. But what's interesting, I was talking with a buddy of mine and we were kind of like spitballing. And I think, to me right now, I'm at Eagles in the over is what I like right now.
I like that too.
We were kind of spitballing the game and I was like, first touchdown catch is always a prop bet I like. Who's going to catch the first touchdown? And what's interesting is in the simulation that they did with the Madden game, the guy that got the first touchdown in the simulation is the guy that I think will get the first touchdown, which is Travis Kelce. I know that's not that big of a stretch, right? He's probably, if you look at the prop bets, which I haven't, he's probably got to be up there as probably number one or number two for either team, right? Of being the first guy to catch a touchdown. But I just found that interesting to read the simulation. And the other part of the simulation that was interesting is it ended up being Jalen Hurts throwing 260 some yards, 2 touchdowns, rushing for 88 and scoring a touchdown on the ground. actually, when you read it, you're like, this actually could end up happening. That's what's weird about reading that simulation and then understanding how many times they've done it in the past and how many times it's accurate. It's kind of eerie.
Well, it is, and that's why that game and the games like that continue to be more and more enjoyable to play if you're a young person and more addictive. The AI, the artificial intelligence, the learning module that is inside of that, Chad, it's I would say a little intimidating. If we wanted to break down exactly what was going on behind that computing power and the behind the scenes that comes up with this, it feels a little intimidating. It's thinking of things in ways that we wouldn't be able to comprehend in the speed in which they're thinking about it, right? So they've predetermined in a numerous ways the outcomes and the way that the AI can roll through that. It is something I would say, though, back to that prop bet, that I like the Hurts going over the rushing total. Right now, his prop is sitting at 49.5 yards rushing.
I do too.
I think he goes over 49.5 yards rushing. I do
agree.
think because of the nature of the game and the way Philadelphia is going to want to play ball control and keep Patrick Mahomes off the field, I think his passing total is a little bit less than where he goes. So I would go under passing, over rushing yards. I do like the prop bet. There is a prop bet for him throwing and rushing for a touchdown. I think both of those will be done, but I don't think he's going to put up, and this is just my personal opinion, as many yards through the air, because if Philadelphia does what I expect them to do, they're going to rush Patrick Mahomes to death. That's what, again, Tampa Bay did, and any successful team against the Chiefs, if you get to the quarterback, especially Mahomes, and you muck it up for him, that's the only real chance you have to win. And that's why the Chiefs are in their third Super Bowl in the last 4 years. These guys are really fucking good, like really good. But if Philly does what I think, they won't be throwing as much.
See, but I think that's what they're going to try to do, and you may see some of that, but I think it's going to turn into a shootout, and that's why I like the over.
That's possible.
I also like Kansas City in the second half. I think ultimately the Eagles are going to win, but I think the Eagles need to get up early. They're going to try to hold the lead, as you said. They're going to try to rush the ball, but I think Kansas City's, and they're going to be decent, mounting a comeback and be able to hoist up points. I see it as a shootout. I'm kind of hoping it's in the 30s. Both teams in the 30s would be awesome to see a Super Bowl like that, where it's just a barn burner. That's what I'm hoping for. We'll see what happens. But again, I like the Eagles in the over ultimately.
Well, I think that's at this point the bet that I'm going to make. One thing that I still have rattling in the back of my mind as I watch this guy's highlights and just reflect on what his brief yet storied career has been like so far, the magic of a guy like Patrick Mahomes. And I never know. I think about guys that we've talked about in the NBA or Major League Baseball, but most specifically like the NBA, because one player affects so much more. There's something about Patrick Mahomes that reminds me of guys like Larry Bird, of Magic Johnson, of Michael Jordan, that have this incredible effect over a game in which, listen, the Jazz were probably a better team than the Bulls were the last couple of seasons when the Bulls beat the Jazz a couple of times for those finals, right? Like the Jazz probably had a better team, but the Bulls just had Michael fucking Jordan, and there was nothing to do about that. Like there was just nothing to do about that.
No.
That seems in some cases what Patrick Mahomes is capable of. But again, the way the Philadelphia Eagles have put together this season, I'm not putting anything past him. Maddie from the recovery room checking in this morning. And again, back downstairs at 11 for your lunch. Foreman, come see us. It'll be a good time. Says maybe Aaron Rodgers could read my stars and let me know who to bet on. Sorry, too easy to pass up. We've got another story going around our Facebook group page about Aaron and consulting his astrologist and all of it. Listen,
really?
Yeah, I don't get too.
No.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This is something that we've got up on our Facebook group page right now. It's funny, and I listen, I can't confirm the veracity, but Pro Football Talk, Aaron Rodgers will get Super Bowl week started by speaking at an astrology seminar.
Oh my God.
That's what he will be doing, speaking at an astrology seminar. So listen,
he's going to be making ceramic necklaces when he retires in the desert of Arizona in an RV. He's that guy.
I know. And listen, I don't knock him for his personal journey and exploration. I know that he is going to be well-to-do, and there's all of that. He'll retire with that one healthy Super Bowl to his credit, just like
sandals and black socks. Here we come.
Yeah, just about. Boy, when we see Aaron Rodgers, and it's going to be 10 years from now, we're going to be like, Jesus Christ, like him and Keanu Reeves, like, turned out to be the same guy. I know Rodgers played him at Halloween, but what the fuck? All right, boys and girls, have a great rest of your Tuesday. Again, lunch at the R at 11. So if you're in the area, love to see you. We'll have some great specials. Tomorrow, Mike Schmidt will be on the show with us Have a great rest of your day. Don't forget, go to betus.com, claim that free money, start being one of the 61% of the new bettors this year that's going to bet on the Super Bowl. Chad, have a good one. Talk to you in the morning.
Yep, you too.